everyone, welcome back. I'm glad you're here. We're getting closer to the end of the year. The parties are ramping up. The holiday celebrations are absolutely in full swing, and you might be feeling a little fluffy. If fat loss is what you want to keep, maintain, and continue on with, instead of piling on, copious amounts of weight in your menopausal years, then stick with me. I'm going to share an oldie but a goodie. It's called my cleansing broth, and I was kind of chuckling, cleaning out some files, looking at old, programs that I've had in the past, and I uncovered a pile of recipes, and my age-old cleansing broth just popped up and smiled at me, and it just gave me a blast from the past, because as a functional nutritionist, I've run countless programs with, in-person groups, and we would do 5-day detoxes, 10-day cleansing plans. And at the helm was my notorious cleansing broth. And I thought, you know what? That might be a really good recipe to share with my YouTube channel. So I hope you're ready for a good soup, a good source of comfort and nutrition, and a way to kind of get back on track when all else has failed and you're just ready to throw up your hands and give up. So my name's Connie Rutledge. I'm a fat loss specialist. I'm a menopausal fat loss specialist, and I help menopausal women and anyone with their fat loss journey. It's a privilege for me to offer, what I have found. I'm 63 years old, postmenopausal, aging, and I just want to offer the tips and tricks that I've come across to support you in your fat loss journey and your optimization journey as you age gracefully. So back in the day, before we knew anything about intermittent fasting, we all low-calorie dieted, and certainly we knew that, processed foods and fried foods and sugar was, not a good thing. And we watched what we ate, and we often underate. I will say that a lot of times I would be working with groups of people just like you, and we would do a 5-day detox. It would be definitely a clean, omnivore, higher protein, low carb style diet, and it works. It kind of gives you back your control, gets you back in touch with normal eating patterns, get you back in touch with your hunger signals, and it's just a really good way to revert to a super clean diet strategy. And cleansing broth was at the helm, always. I had cleansing broth and super cleansing broth, and what do I mean by that? I look at my recipe here. My cleansing broth was kind of a pureed soup. We'd start with a sweet potato, and we'd cube that up, and then we would add in zucchini and cabbage, some celery, spinach. If you wanted to add an onion, you could do that. And so you would cook those vegetables in about 1 quart of water in a 4-quart stock pot. I use my Le Creuset or ceramic pot. I then would let that cool slightly and blend that up in the blender. And it would be a pureed, smooth, beautiful green soup. I would then also add a couple tablespoons of olive oil, some salt and pepper. You could add some gelatin, 3 to 4 tablespoons of gelatin, whether it's a beef gelatin or a pork gelatin, just for nutrients. You could add a cup of raw milk. You want to get some fat and maybe just a tinge of protein in there. So you would have a beautiful pureed vegetable soup that you could sip on during your mealtime. And back in the day, we really didn't pay much attention to the intermittent fast because we didn't know how important it was. But I would allow you to sip on that anytime during the day when you felt hungry. And I still advocate, if it's something, you're not really well versed at intermittent fasting, go for it. You could have a small bowl of that or a cup of that any time of day, because it's virtual, energy, and it shouldn't upset your insulin levels, or it shouldn't do anything but nourish you during something like a cleanse, if you will. Okay, to make it a super cleansing broth, I would have you roast a whole chicken, buy an organic chicken, roast it in the oven for like an hour. You can have your dinner, and maybe you're gonna, have some sweet potatoes, you're gonna have some other green vegetables alongside that, and that's one whole meal where you have a nice baked chicken meal. And then you take the carcass and all the bones and the skin and the cartilage and all that left over from your baked chicken, you would put that in your stock pot with another couple quarts of water, add a splash of apple cider vinegar, and you could put it in your crock pot, and then you would cook that for 12 to 24 hours, making this wonderful, beautiful, intense bone broth. Then, after you have your bone broth, you would add half bone broth and half cleansing broth for your supercharged super cleansing broth. I always had my crock pot making bone broth out in the backyard because I just hated the way my house smelled, with bone broth simmering throughout the that smell. Just I didn't like it. So having that outside worked for me. It might work for you. Now we have the Instapot. I didn't have one of those back in the day, and I'll use that. It's quicker, and I can make bone broth in an hour. So, but you do need the bones. I always advocate make your own bone broth. If you barbecue chicken, if you bake chicken, if you roast chicken, whatever it is, you can use all the bones from the dinner table. Just throw them in a Ziploc bag, throw them in the freezer, and pull that out whenever you've got extra time or need your bone broth. You can do it with beef bones. You can do it with any bones, but you can typically, if you're going to do beef bones, you'll buy beef bones at the market, and then you'll want to roast those off in the oven. Use the fat that comes off of those bones for like cooking, tallow. It's incredible. And then you'll do the same with your bone broth. Add plenty of bones and water, a little splash of apple cider vinegar. You can put some spices, you can put some, carrots and celery. Those are good minerals. And then there you have it. You cook that off for 12 to 24 hours and all good. You've got bone broth. So the only caveat to using bone broth as a healing elixir is if you have high histamine issues. If you tend to be really inflamed, if you tend to have a leaky gut, or not a leaky gut, if you tend to have tons of bloating and lots of real ruddy skin, then you might have high histamine, and a bone broth is going to kick up more histamine. That's probably something that you want to, talk to me about because you have other issues going on. So if you respond negatively to bone broth, maybe you bloat, maybe you get more inflamed with a high histamine food like bone broth, then you've got other issues. But for the most part, bone broth is a superfood. And why is that? Because the glycine and all of the minerals from the bones of that animal are going to support you, are going to be just super healing to your body. okay? It's gonna support your collagen, it's gonna support your gut health, it's gonna support your mineral balance, and it's superfood in my opinion. So on those 5 to 10 day cleansing programs, I always offered a list of foods that you should follow, and you stick to that. So it was always, clean meat, maybe bison. Maybe we avoided beef because, you ate beef all the other times, but for these 5 days you stuck to bison, buffalo as a red meat, lamb, super great for clean eating. Wild game would be great. High quality poultry, mostly maybe, dark meat because it is a little more nutrient dense. White meat's fine, but always cook that on the bone. You could do duck, you could do wild caught seafood, sardines. I forgot to mention turkey with the poultry. Eggs were on the list. High quality organic eggs, pasture raised. You could do feta cheese, goat milk, sheep milk. Those are all great protein sources. And certainly as a menopausal woman, you want to stick with high protein, low carb. If you choose to do nuts and seeds, you want to soak your nuts and dry them, or do raw and unsalted. I advocated all vegetables are great, especially all the greens, the artichoke, asparagus, avocado, bok choy, broccoli, and down the list. Carrots, cabbage, cauliflower, and you always wanted to add a good quality fat to your vegetables. You can cook them, steam them, roast them, raw. That's amazing for, a clean eating program. We limited fruit for the most part. The fruits that I advocated were apples, berries, lemons, limes, and the fats that were on the list were butter, olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, ghee, flax oil, and the seeds, you could do flax seeds, hemp seeds, those types of things for another fat source. And use fat, very liberally, because when you're eating clean and low carb, you need to factor in the fat. That's really important. Use your spices. Any spice is gonna be flavorful, it's gonna add a nutrient profile, it's gonna be potentially antimicrobial. And with a 5 to 10 day cleanse, you wanna support the body in cleansing. That's why you're doing it. So if you're making soups, you can add spices liberally and really enjoy the benefits of something like oregano, because that's a superfood as far as, antimicrobial, antifungal. It's going to really support the body. So I'm just really laughing as I look back on those programs. I thought it'd be fun to offer you my menus for the program. I'll just kind of read. Breakfast could be a mushroom spinach sausage frittata, a crustless quiche, almond and zucchini pancakes. There's so many paleo recipes now, but low carb, high fat, quality pancakes are amazing. And then obviously there's always the protein smoothie, using the quality protein powders that we didn't have before. There was no beef isolate protein powders like the Equip and the Noble that I love so much. So we've got, amazing new technology to support even higher quality products. It's really cool. For lunch, it would be cleansing broth with roasted chicken, leafy green salad with meat, poultry, or fish, and a vinaigrette dressing. Let's see, ground turkey or ground meat patty or 2 with some cooked veggies and or some cleansing broth. So you can always go back and forth, add cleansing broth and some meat. If you don't feel hungry or you really want to do super clean, you could just do the cleansing broth by itself. let's see, dinner, there was a recipe for fried eggs over green chili burgers, meaning fried egg over maybe a bison patty with green chili. And that's kind of a Spanish or Mexican flair. And cleansing broth. So you would repeat the cleansing broth. It made it easy. You had it ready to go. It was a good quality carbohydrate that you could just sub in for anything. I had halibut cooked in caper and lemon and fresh thyme with a sauteed green. There was a nut-crusted whitefish, baked sweet potato, and leafy green salad with a vinaigrette. And of course, any allowed protein with veggies and butter. And, you know, get creative. You can roast off the veggies, you can, you know, barbecue and or bake your proteins and have that with wild abandon, right? I actually have snacks on here, which I think is funny because right now I don't advocate snacking at all. But if you needed a snack, you could do hard-boiled eggs, half an apple with nut butter, 2 ounces of goat or feta cheese with veggies, cleansing broth, anytime. So that's the 7-day detox program that I had once upon a time. I could resume that. It might be a fun thing to do as a group. I also feel that intermittent fasting or, you know, would be applicable to this type of a program. We could add in, you know, feeding windows and or, you know, time restricted eating where we certainly incorporated all of these foods and just ate them in feeding windows and see what happens. So if you're game, let me know in the comments that you'd love to resume a program like this and or, you know, do it as a group and we could get on Zoom and just have a ball getting back on track. It's a good way to kind of figure out your eating style, what your body needs. We're all different. I mean, some of us would do great on a program like this. Some of us need higher fat, higher protein. It just makes sense to find out what you need to support your body and, you know, kind of practice something new. Get in touch with your hunger. We've got more tools now than ever to support you in your fat loss journey and your maintenance journey, because a program like this is not only about fat loss, it's about nutrition. It's about fueling your body in a really beautiful way, so that you can kind of be the best that you absolutely can be, that you have the fuel on board and that you're optimized. All right, let me know what you think. Come for the fat loss, stay for the longevity. In our menopausal years, we need more support and tools to optimize and maximize our best life yet, okay? Hope this was helpful. Hit the like button, subscribe, and let me know what you think, okay? All right, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.